The midday sun beat down on the shimmering sands of the Mojave Desert, a relentless hammer of heat. Sweat trickled down 7-year-old Leo's forehead as he poked a stick at a line of ants marching with purpose. He was supposed to be watching for his dad's truck, but the desert was full of more interesting things. That's when he saw it. A glint of metal, not the familiar chrome of a car, but something different. It was half buried in the sand, a sleek, obsidian teardrop that pulsed with a faint, violet light. Curiosity, as it always did, won out over caution. Leo scrambled over a rocky outcrop and slid down a sandy dune toward the strange object. As he got closer, a low hum vibrated through the soles of his sneakers. The object wasn't a rock or a piece of a plane. It was a ship, but unlike any he'd ever seen in his dad's sci-fi magazines. A ramp hissed open, and a figure emerged, shimmering in the heat haze. The being was tall and impossibly slender, draped in robes that flowed like liquid silver. Its skin had the opalescent sheen of a pearl, and two large, dark eyes regarded Leo with an expression he couldn't quite read. It wasn't fear, but maybe frustration. The alien glided towards him, its movements graceful and silent. It held up a 3-fingered hand and spoke, but the sounds were a cascade of chimes and clicks, like wind through crystal. Leo just blinked. He didn't understand a word, but he understood the situation. The ship was broken, stuck in the sand. The alien pointed at the ship, then made a gesture of frustration, a sort of elegant shrug that was surprisingly human. It then tapped a device on its wrist, and a synthesized voice, flat and robotic, filled the air. Communication. Failure. Propulsion. Offline. Stranded. Leo looked from the alien to the buried ship. He'd seen his dad fix everything from the farm's irrigation pump to his mom's ancient food processor. The logic in his 7-year-old mind was simple and unwavering. He puffed out his chest, pointed a thumb at himself, and said with complete confidence, "Don't worry. My dad can fix it." The alien tilted its head, its large eyes narrowing slightly. The translator word, your parental unit, is a technician of advanced propulsion systems. Leo shook his head. Nope, he's a mechanic. He fixes tractors and trucks, but he's the best. He can fix anything. The alien seemed to process this for a long moment. It looked at its silent, half-buried vessel, a marvel of interstellar engineering, and then at the small, dusty human boy offering the services of a tractor mechanic. A series of soft, musical clicks emanated from the alien, which the translator rendered as unlikely, but the options are limited. It gestured for Leo to lead the way. The walk back to the farmhouse was a strange procession, a small boy confidently leading a 7-foot-tall intergalactic diplomat through the sagebrush. When they arrived, Leo's dad, Mark, was exactly where Leo expected him to be, under the hood of a dusty Ford F-150, covered in grease, a wrench in his hand. "Dad, I brought a friend," Leo yelled. Mark emerged, wiping his hands on an already stained rag. He froze, his eyes widening as he took in the towering, silver-robed figure standing next to his son. He looked at Leo, then back at the alien, his mouth slightly agape. Before he could say anything, Leo exclaimed, "His spaceship is broken. I told him you could fix it." The alien diplomat, whose name was Xyler, offered a slight, formal bow. The translator on its wrist spoke, "Greetings. I am Ambassador Xyler. My vessel has suffered a critical power, conduit failure. Your offspring assured me of your universal repair capabilities." Mark stared, speechless. He was a good mechanic, sure, but this was a whole new level of handyman special. He ran a hand through his hair, leaving a streak of grease. Right. Well, let's go have a look, I guess. Following Leo and Xyler back to the crash site, Mark felt like he was in a dream. When he saw the ship, his mechanic's mind immediately kicked in, overriding the sheer shock. The craft was beautiful, seamless, and utterly alien. But a problem was a problem, no matter the tech. Xyler pointed to a panel that was flickering erratically. "The primary energy flow is disrupted," the translator stated. Mark peered inside. It was a jungle of crystalline wires and pulsating nodes, nothing like the familiar tangle of a combustion engine, but he saw the logic of it. Energy in, energy out, and something in the middle was broken. He noticed a small, fractured crystal, no bigger than his thumb, that was glowing dimly while the others around it were dark. "It looks like this little guy is the problem," Mark muttered, pointing. "It's cracked. The connection's broken." Xyler seemed surprised. "Your diagnostic assessment is SWIFT, that is, the tertiary flow regulator. We do not possess a replacement," Mark grunted, tapping his chin. So you just need to complete the circuit, right? Bridge the gap?" He looked around, his eyes scanning the desert floor, then back at his own truck parked nearby. "An idea sparked?" "Leo, run back to my truck. In the toolbox, get me the big roll of copper wire and the soldering iron." Leo beamed and sprinted off. Xyler watched, perplexed. Copper, solder, these are primitive materials. Primitive, maybe. Mark said, pulling a multi-tool from his pocket. But sometimes a simple fix is the best one. All you need is a good connection. When Leo returned, Mark went to work. With a surgeon's focus, he carefully bypassed the fractured crystal, using a length of heavy-gauge copper wire and meticulously soldering the ends to the contact points. It was a crude, ugly patch amidst the elegant alien technology, a greasy fingerprint on a diamond. Xyler watched the entire process in utter silence, its posture rigid. When Mark finished, he stepped back, wiping sweat from his brow. Okay, give it a try. Xyler hesitated, then glided to the control panel. It pressed a sequence of symbols. For a moment, nothing happened. Mark's heart sank. Then, a low hum started, growing steadily into a powerful, stable thrum. The lights on the ship brightened, the violet glow becoming strong and steady. The flickering panel was now solid. The translator spoke, its tone now holding a hint of something Mark could only describe as awe. Energy flow. Restored. Propulsion systems. Online. It is functional. Xyler turned to Mark, its large, dark eyes wide. It performed a deep, slow bow, far more profound than the first. You've repaired the irreparable with the tools of an infant civilization. Your title of mechanic is insufficient. You are a miracle smith. Mark just chuckled and clapped the grease from his hands. Nah, just a guy who knows how to make things work. Glad I could help. Leolo, who had been watching with rapt attention, ran up and hugged his dad's leg. See, I told you my dad could fix it. As the obsidian ship silently lifted from the sand, hovering for a moment before vanishing into the blue sky with a flash of light, Mark put his arm around his son's shoulders. He looked down at Leo, who was gazing up at the sky where the ship had been. In that moment, Mark wasn't just a mechanic who'd fixed a spaceship with copper wire. He was the man who could fix anything. And to his son, that made him the greatest hero in the entire universe. As they walked back to the farmhouse, Mark smiled. Some days, being a dad was the best job in the galaxy. The shimmering heat waves of the Iridian desert distorted the horizon, making the twin suns dance like malevolent eyes. Ambassador Cathar's vessel, a sleek marvel of bioluminescent alloy, was now just a silent, half-buried scar in the crimson sand. His universal translator crackled, a final, dying whisper. He was stranded, millions of light years from home, on a primitive world-designated Earth. Just as a four-limbed sense of despair began to set in, a small figure appeared over a dune. It was a human child, no older than 10 cycles, wearing brightly colored fabrics and a wide-brimmed hat. The boy's eyes, wide with a mixture of fear and curiosity, fixed on Cathar's towering, insectoid form. He pointed a small, fleshy digit at the crashed ship. Whoa, that's a cool ... thing. Did it break? He asked, his voice high-pitched and clear. Cathar, using the last dregs of his translator's power, managed a single, guttural word. Broken. The boy, whose name was Leo, circled the wreck. He kicked a piece of dislodged plating. Looks pretty busted, he observed with the gravity of a seasoned mechanic. My bike looked like this once. Dad fixed it. Cathar's antennae twitched. This small creature spoke of repair. Could it be your dad? Possesses advanced technological knowledge? He transmitted, the words glitching. Leo shrugged, kicking at the sand. I don't know about that, but he's my dad. He can fix anything. Cathar was skeptical. His ship's power core was a quantum-entangled singularity, its navigation system woven from threads of space-time itself. The idea of a primitive biped repairing it was ludicrous, yet he had no other options. He followed the boy over the dunes, his multiple legs struggling in the soft sand. After what felt like an eternity, they arrived at a small, boxy structure. A larger human, with grease-stained hands and a kind face, emerged. This was the dad. Leo ran to him. Dad, look, his spaceship is broken. The man stared, his jaw dropping as he took in the 7-foot-tall alien diplomat standing in his front yard. He looked from Cathar to his son, then back again. There was a long, stunned silence. Finally, the man wiped his greasy hands on his pants, a slow grin spreading across his face. A spaceship, huh? Well, let's go have a look. I've got my toolbox in the truck. Cathar watched, utterly baffled, as the man named Dad pulled out a collection of crude metal implements. He expected ridicule, perhaps even fear. Instead, this dad spent the next hour patiently examining the alien engine, asking Leo to pass him that thingamajig or the whatchamacallit. He didn't understand the technology, not in the slightest, but he understood broken things. He saw a loose conduit, a disconnected power relay, a fractured coolant line, problems universal to any machine, no matter how advanced. With a roll of something called duct tape, a few twists of a wrench, and a healthy dose of pure, stubborn ingenuity, the human managed to reroute a secondary power circuit. It was a clumsy, inelegant fix, a cosmic equivalent of using a paperclip to pick a lock. But then, a low hum vibrated through the ship. Interior lights flickered to life. The main console blinked green. It was a temporary patch, but it was enough. enough to send a distress signal. Cathar stood before the human and his child, his antennae lowered in a gesture of profound respect. The universal translator, now partially powered, spoke clearly. I do not understand. Your technology is primitive, yet you have repaired the irreparable. The dad just chuckled, ruffling his son's hair. There's no problem so big it can't be tackled. You just gotta be willing to get your hands dirty. Leo beamed, puffing out his chest. See? I told you. My dad can fix anything. In that moment, across the vastness of space and culture, Cathar learned the most powerful force in the universe wasn't a singularity core or a starship engine. It was a father's love and a good set of tools.